Welcome viewers. Today in this lecture I will be discussing about the basic challenges of organizational design while choosing the right organizational structure. Learning objectives would be basic organizational design challenges which a manager confronts and how these challenges will be addressed in order to create a high performing organizational structure. Further, we will discuss about the design choices underlying a mechanistic or an organic form of organizational structure, the role of contingency theory while designing a structure in order to best fit the organization's environment. We begin with the discussion on what is differentiation. It is a process by which an organization allocates people and resources to various organizational tasks. While it establishes the task and authority relationship to allow the organization to achieve its objectives and goals. So, we come across some definitions of division of labor in simple and complex organizations. Division of labor, the degree of specialization in organizations, how specialized a person is in his or her task. So, it differs in simple organization and complex organizations. In simple organizations, differentiation or degree of differentiation is low because the division of labor is low. Individuals typically perform all organizational tasks alone. In a complex organization, if you compare in contrast to the simple organization, differentiation is very high because the division of labor is high. These are basic design challenges. For example, an organization and there are very few people who are working in that organization, like a restaurant which has its owners and waiters, but when it further improves or further it expands, so the restaurant will have owners, waiters, kitchen staff and boys who are taking care of guests. So, as the organization grows, they need to hire more individuals. Further, when it expands its business operations, it has more stores, it will have owners, chefs, waiters, kitchen staff and boys who are taking care of the guests. And when the business further expands to different locations, so it creates new tasks and functions and it hires more people to manage every function. So, more individuals are hired and the organization starts becoming more complex with specialized services like kitchen, dining room facilities, restaurant services and more number of employees are hired, which is required to maintain the operations of the business. And as the organization grows, like the owners take care of some specific activities like purchasing, marketing, accounting, and the support function rests with the staff take care of managing kitchen facilities are taken care of the staff who have been hired. So, which means that owners will only take care of the core operations like how to purchase, how to market and they will also take care of accounting functions, but the non-core activities will be given up to the staff. These are certain things which we come across as we move further in the discussion. We will first explain what are organizational roles, set of task related behavior which is required for a person by his or her position in an organization. As division of labor increases, managers specialize in few roles and hire people to specialize in other roles. Specialization allows individuals or people to develop their abilities and knowledge within their specific capacity. Organizational structure is basically a system of interrelated roles. It consists of authority, control. Authority is the power to hold people accountable for their actions and to make decisions concerning the use of organizational resources. Control is the ability to coordinate and motivate people to work in organizations' interest or goals. Then there are subunits and functions and divisions. How are they different from each other? Function is a subunit composed of group of people who are working together, who possess similar skills or use the same kind of knowledge, tools or techniques to perform their jobs. Division is a subunit that consists of a collection of functions or departments which shares responsibilities for producing a particular good or service. Organizational complexity is the number of different functions and divisions which an organization possesses based on the degree of differentiation. There are different types of functions like support functions, production functions, maintenance functions, adaptive functions, managerial functions. Support functions facilitate an organization's control of its relations with its environment and its stakeholders like purchasing, sales, marketing, public relations and legal affairs. Whereas production function manages and improves the efficiency of an organization's conversion process so that more value is created. Production operations, production control, quality control, it helps in improving the value creation, while the conversion process, it helps in creating more value for the more value to the each product or service. So, production function manages and improves the efficiency of an organization's conversion process so that more value is created, and it consists of production operations, production control and quality control. Maintenance functions, on the other hand, enables an organization to keep its departments in operation, keep it functioning like the personnel, engineering, cleaning or janitorial services, without which the organization cannot function. Of course, there are some core functions and there are certain support functions. Adaptive functions are those which allow an organization to adjust to the changes in the environment, like when the environment is highly vulnerable, highly dynamic, complex, competitors are coming up with new products. In that case, research and development, market research, long range planning, these are the functions which adapt and help organizations to change, which get input from the market, which sense make what the competitors are working on, and they help an organization to adapt or to transform their processes, to transform their products, services, so that they are also competitive. Managerial functions, what are managerial functions? They facilitate the control and coordination of various activities within and among the departments, like acquisition of resources, investment in various projects and control of resources. So, all these are managerial functions which facilitate the control and coordination of activities within and among the departments. These are all the building blocks of differentiation. Like in an organization, there are divisions, within the division there are functions, and within the functions there are different roles. To more understand the vertical and horizontal differentiation, let us try to understand what is hierarchy, what is vertical differentiation and horizontal differentiation. Hierarchy is a classification of people according to their relative authority and rank. Vertical differentiation is the way an organization designs its hierarchy of authority and creates reporting relationship to link organizational roles and subunits. Within an organization, there are different positions and each position has certain roles well defined. There is authority associated with each level. It establishes the distribution of authority between different levels. Somebody may have more power, more access to information, has more control over resources. So, that defines the vertical differentiation. Horizontal differentiation is the way an organization groups tasks into various roles and into subunits or functions and divisions. Role differentiated according to the main task or responsibilities. So, in an organizational chart, organization has certain core competencies. The owners, restaurant managers, examples that we have discussed, there are certain core competencies. There are functional and skill abilities like say suppose kitchen staff or dining room facilities, restaurant services functions. These are the functional skills and abilities. Individual abilities are and knowledge will help each function to be carried out. Like for example, for kitchen function to be more efficient, we need chef and we also need person who are cleaning the dishes. So these are two roles which will be part of the kitchen function. Dining room function will not be possible without the roles of waiter and busy boy taking the requests of the customers. Restaurant services, like it will not be possible without the bartender and cashier and janitor's role. So, these roles will be supporting the functions and the activities which are part of a restaurant. There are different design challenges. So, we need to see how the design challenges need to be balanced. Like balancing differentiation and integration, balancing centralization and decentralization. Organizational design components are how the power is bestowed with the top management, whether it is centralized, rules and regulations are followed or not. In order to strike a balance between the centralization, standardization, we will see how an organization is able to manage the design challenges, balancing differentiation and integration, balancing centralization, decentralization, standardization, and how it is mutually adjusting. To first take up the issue of balancing differentiation and integration, horizontal differentiation is supposed to enable people to specialize and become more productive. A specialization often limits the communication between subunits, because once a group or a division has more specialized individuals, they know they are efficient in their operations, in their business. They try to remain in silos. Specialization or too much of specialization limits the communication between the different parts of the organization's units or subunits. People develop subunit orientation. They become more focused or they try to work for efficiency of their own subunit. Subunit orientation means a tendency to view one's role in the organization strictly from the perspective of the time frame, goals and interpersonal orientation of one's subunit. Like say suppose somebody is working in the finance department, would be more focused towards performing the task efficiently and effectively, working towards the to earn high profit. Somebody who is working in the marketing department would be looking for better products. In R&D, the newness in the product or creativity in the new product or bringing in innovation would be the subunit orientation of the employees. Balancing differentiation and integration. What is differentiation and how it is balanced? When subunit orientation occurs, communication fails and coordination becomes difficult. Integration means the process of coordination between various tasks, various functions and divisions, so that all of them work together, not at cross purpose. So, the type of integrating mechanisms are hierarchy of authority, like discusses about the reporting relationship or dictates who should be reporting to whom. The direct contact managers meet face to coordinate activities. Problematic that a manager in one direct contact managers meet face to coordinate activities, and at times it is problematic when a manager in one function has no authority over a manager in another function. Liaison role is a specific manager in a given responsibility for coordinating the managers from other units on behalf of their subunit. Task force teams are various types of integrating mechanisms. What is a task force? Managers meet in temporary committees. Task force are problem solving teams to coordinate cross functional activities. These task force members responsible for taking coordinating solutions back to their respective functions for further input and approval. Task forces are temporary problem solving teams who address to a problem, like say suppose there is a task force to investigate about a quality issue which has happened in a particular department. So, that task force members will try to resolve the problem of quality or how the quality can be further improved. Similarly, a new product is developed. So, in that how the product can be more effective, how more features can be added. So, these are problems to be dealt with by the task force. What is a team? Team is a permanent task force used to deal with ongoing strategic or administrative issues. like the teams which are working on the projects, new projects, till the time the project is accomplished, project goals are accomplished, or a complete task is performed, the members of the team continue to work in that particular strategic or administrative problem. Integrating role is a new full-time role which is established to improve the communication interaction between various divisions. It focuses on company-wide integration, interaction with several people in order to accomplish the complete task. Integrating department is a new department which is intended to coordinate the activities or functions of the division. It is created when many employees enact integrating roles. Take some examples and types of task forces, cross-functional teams, integrating roles and departments, uh, liaison roles. Task forces are temporary groups which are formed to solve specific problems, complex problems required input from multiple departments. They cannot work with the inputs from one department alone, like for example, task force for a new product launch. It requires inputs from several departments, several resources. Similarly, cross-functional team is a permanent or a temporary or semi-permanent team with members from different departments who work on the shared goals. For example, new product development team with engineers, designers, consultants, marketers, and financial experts working from various departments. Integrating roles and departments, dedicated roles like product manager or departments like project management office focused on coordination. Shared values and culture, informal mechanisms like strong company culture and trust that encourage spontaneous collaboration. For example, open office space and social events, organizing social events, accomplishment of a project. There are some gatherings, social gatherings, family get togethers, or open office spaces which are very transparent and open with no closed rooms. So, these are also various examples of informal mechanisms where the company culture can encourage coordination and collaboration, trust and cooperation. Liaison roles are basically the individuals tasked with facilitating communication between departments. For example, liaison between marketing and research and development departments. Now we will discuss in more details about some of the examples and integrating mechanisms. There is integrating mechanisms in order of increasing complexity, and we will describe each one of them with some examples. Let us take an example of a company like Johnson and Johnson. Hierarchy and authority, a ranking of employees integrating by specific, say for example, who reports to whom decides the hierarchy or rank in an organization. For example, salespeople report to the diaper division sales manager is a kind of a reporting relationship as per the hierarchy of authority. Similarly, who is a direct contact? Direct contact is manager when they are meeting face to face to coordinate various activities. Diaper department sales and manufacturing managers meet to discuss regarding the schedules, when to launch, how to incorporate some new suggestions. Licensing role is taken care of by managers. In a specific manager is given responsibility for coordinating with managers from other subunits, and on behalf of his or her subunit, a person from each office of the Johnson and Johnson's production, marketing, research and development department is given responsibility coordinate with other departments. So, these are some examples, and further we will also discuss about the task force, the teams. Task forces are basically the managers meet in a temporary committee to coordinate cross-functional activities. What are these cross-functional activities? Like a committee is formed to find out the facts, new ways to recycle the diapers. If this is a problem, if how to recycle, how to reduce cost. So, all these are the issues which are taken care of by the task force and committees. Next is the team. How the team, like the managers, meet regularly in permanent committees to coordinate various activities. How to launch a new product, the teams come up with a permanent team. Johnson and Johnson committee is established to promote a new product development in the diaper division. The product is improvised from time to time in order to satisfy the customers, in order to provide them a better experience. With some new techniques, they come up with new solutions so that they can provide a better product to the customers. So, teams keep on improving the task. Integrating role, a new role is established to coordinate the activities of two or more functions or divisions. One manager takes responsibility to coordinate diaper and baby soap divisions to enhance their marketing activities, how to improve the sales. Integrating departments, there is a new department is created to coordinate the activities of various functions or divisions, and a team of managers created to take responsibility for coordinating Johnson and Johnson's centralized programs to allow the divisions to share skills and resources. Which is licensing role indicates managers with responsibility for integrating between various subunits of research and development, production and marketing. And task force or teams, they take care of indicating managers with responsibility to integrate between the subunits like research and development, sales, production, marketing and engineering. And integrating role is indicating the managers with responsibility to integrate between subunits of computer software division, application division or computer hardware division. Balancing differentiation and integration, managers who face the challenge of deciding how and how much to differentiate and integrate must first carefully understand, guide the process of differentiation so that it develops the core competencies that gives the organization a core competitive advantage. They must also carefully integrate the organization by choosing appropriate integrating mechanisms to allow subunits to cooperate and build up the organization's core competencies. Centralization and decentralization need to be balanced. So, there are certain mechanisms of balancing centralization and decentralization. Centralized organizations have the authority to make important decisions by the top management. Top managers are able to coordinate activities to keep the organizations focused on its goals, and decentralized organizations, on the other hand, the authority to make important decisions is delegated to managers at all levels in the hierarchy, which promotes flexibility and responsiveness. So, ideal balance is maintained. It enables middle and lower managers who are at the scene of the action to make important decisions, allowing top managers to focus on long-term perspectives or long-term strategy making. Balancing standardization and mutual adjustment. Standardization is conformity to specific models or examples that are considered proper in a given situation, which is defined by the rules and norms. Standardization talks about conforming to the rules, regulations which have been set by the organization. A mutual adjustment is a process through which people use the judgment rather than standardized rules to address the problems, guiding decision making and promote coordination. In a mutually adjusted scenario, people do not strictly abide by the rules and regulations, but however, they try to adjust or try to judge the situation based on what is important for them. Formalization is the use of rules and procedures to standardized operations. Balancing standardization and mutual adjustment requires socialization. Understood norms. Rules are formal written statements to specify the appropriate means for reaching desired goals. Norms are there which are standardized or styles of behavior that are considered typical of a group of people. It may arise informally. External rules may become internalized norms. Socialization is a process through which members learn about the norms and try to understand these norms using through the unwritten rules of conduct. Challenges which managers face is to find ways to use rules and norms to standardize their behavior. to allow mutual adjustment, to give managers opportunity to discuss new ways and better ways to achieve goals. Now, mechanistic and organic structures. Mechanistic structure is designed to induce people to behave in a predictable or accountable way. It has certain important points like decision making is centralized, subordinates are very closely monitored, supervised, information flows mainly in a vertical direction along the clearly defined path from the top to down. Hierarchy, principal integrating mechanism. Tasks and roles are coordinated primarily through standardized norms or formal written rules. Best applicable in the situations like where organizations face stable and unchanging environment. On the other hand, in contrast, organic structures are those that promote flexibility, agility. So, people initiate change and adapt quickly to the changing conditions. And there are certain characteristics of organic structures like decision making distributed throughout the hierarchy, and coordination is achieved through mutual adjustment. Status conferred by ability to provide creative leadership, encourages innovative behavior suited to dynamic environment. How the design challenges result in mechanistic and organic structure. Mechanistic structures result when an organization makes these choices like individualized specialization, employees work separately and specialize in one clearly defined task. Simple integrating mechanisms where hierarchy of authority is clearly defined and is the major integrating mechanism. Centralization or authority to control task is kept at the top of the organization and most communication is vertical. Standardization, excessive use is made of rules and standard operating procedures to coordinate tasks and work processes is predictable. Organic structures, on the other hand, results when organizations make these choices. Joint specialization, employees work together and coordinate their actions to find the best possible way to perform a task. There is a complex integrating mechanism of task forces and teams are the major integrating mechanisms. There are various task forces, permanent and temporary task forces or teams which are solving problems and which remains the major integrating mechanism in case of an organic structure. Decentralization is authority to control tasks and is delegated to people at all levels in the organization. Most communication is lateral. Mutual adjustment, extensive use is made of face to face contact to coordinate tasks and work process is relatively not very predictable or unpredictable. So, task and role relationship, the individualized specialization is a mechanistic structure. A person in a role specializes in a specific task or set of tasks. In case of joint specialization, mostly used in organic structure, a person in a role is assigned a particular task or set of tasks. However, the person is able to learn new tasks and develop new skills and capabilities. Then we also discussed to context of contingency approach. Contingency or situations is a management approach in which the design of a structure is tailored to the sources of uncertainty which is facing an organization. An organization's environment is very important. It can be dynamic, competitive or it can be stable. So, organization structure has to sync with external environment. Organization should design its structure in order to fit its environment. So, the concept of fit, the higher the fit between organization and environment, better would be the efficiency of an organization or effectiveness of an organization. Poorer the fit, that means there is a gap between organization and its environment, it will not be as effective or sustainable. Lawrence and Lorsch has proposed the relationship between differentiation, integration and environment, investigating how companies in different industries differentiate and integrate their structures to fit the environment. Mostly, if we discuss about certain examples of three industries that have experienced different levels of uncertainty, mostly we come across the plastic industry, the food processing industry, and the container or can manufacturing industry. Let us understand the variables like environmental variables, whether the environment is uncertain, complex, dynamic, and how rich or poor the environment is. Structural variables like departmental differentiation and cross-functional integration, and on the other hand, we understand the degree of uncertainty in case of plastics, food processing and container industry in order to draw a comparison between these three in terms of the variables like structural variables, cross-functional integration or environmental variables. Plastic industry has a very high uncertainty where complexity, dynamism, environmental richness is very high, and also the structural variables like departmental differentiation is very high and cross-functional integration is also high. Whereas in case of food processing, it is moderate, environmental variables like uncertainty is moderate, and departmental differentiation is also moderate, and cross-functional integration is moderate. Whereas when you look at the container industry, you find it is low on environmental variables, structural variables and cross-functional integration. So, the findings of Lawrence and Lorsch highlight when an environment is perceived as unstable or uncertain, effective organizations are less formalized, more decentralization and rely more on mutual adjustment. When environment is stable and certain, organizations have a centralized, standardized and formalized structure. Burns and Stoker have also proposed about the organization structure and environment fit. They found that organizations need different kinds of structures in order to control their activities based on the environment, organic structure and mechanistic structure, and they state that organic structures are most effective when the environment is unstable and changing, whereas mechanistic structures are effective in stable environment. So, drawing a lesson from relationship between environmental uncertainty and structure, final conclusion about how environmental uncertainty is able to draw or define the structure of an organization in terms of mechanistic and organic structure. So, mechanistic structure is a simple structure with low on differentiation, low on integration, centralized decision making and standardization is adopted, whereas organic structure has a complex structure which is high on differentiation, higher on integration and decentralized decision making and mutual adjustment. We discussed about the basic organizational design challenges confronting a manager. We discussed about how challenges will be addressed in order to create a high performing organizational structure. We further moved up to discuss about the division of labor, complex organizations, simple organizations, design challenges in an organization, the organization's roles, functions, division, complexity, maintenance functions, then building blocks of an organization and design challenges and how an organization is balancing differentiation and integration. And finally, it talks about the types of integration and examples of integrating mechanisms. With this, we have finally we have drawn a how the design challenges result in mechanistic and organic structures. Thank you.